Hi, so I think we'll get started now. I think most people have joined us from the waiting room. Firstly, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar on enabling space technologies and services to the public sector. So my name is Alice Weatherston. I work as part of the Business and Innovation team at the Science and Technology Facilities Council. Today we're joined by Nick Trigg, also from the Science and Technology Facilities Council, Ryan King and Simon Agass from the UK Space Agency, and Simon Evans from Blue Abyss. So quickly before I hand over to Nick, just like to go over a few Zoom etiquette points for the webinar, for those of you who may or may not have used the platform before. So you can control your audio in the bottom left of the screen. Please make sure that you're muted throughout just to reduce any feedback or background noise during the presentations. If you have any questions, the panel are more than happy to answer these. Please direct these through the chat function, again found at the bottom of your screen. These will be monitored throughout and posed to the speakers at the end of the presentations. If you are experiencing any technical issues, we recommend just try and leave the session and rejoin, and hopefully that will solve any of the problems that you're having. And lastly, just to let you know that we will be recording this session. So the recording, along with the presentations, will be distributed to all registered attendees following the event. So with that, I hope you enjoy the session, and I'll hand over to Nick. Thanks.
That's better. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, hello and welcome everybody to our the third of our series of Space Plus One talks. This is a series of talks that the Astropreneurs program are putting on to discuss, to invite speakers to discuss how space technologies are working in their respective sectors. So previously we've done agriculture and the finance sector the last couple of weeks, and next week we have manufacturing and robotics. So you still have an opportunity to see those. In fact, you can see the others if you're interested. They are recorded, and we can make the links available to you if you contact us. So today we have space technology supporting the public sector. My name is Nick Trigg. I'm the UK program manager for the Astropreneurs program. I'll tell you about a little bit more about that in a second. And as Alice said, we have Ryan King and Simon Agass, who are part of the Space for Smarter Government program. So the Astropreneurs program is a Horizon 2020 funded project to support early stage space related startups in areas of mentoring and training. And the objective is to help and support the individuals and the companies and the ideas get sort of further down the road of development to sort of full funding or industrial partnership. There are 8 partners around the continent. It's led by the Instituto Pedro Nunes in Portugal. But you can, if you're interested in speaking to any one of us, you can contact any of them. We're all able to answer your questions. And of course, it is open to applicants across the Euro 28 group of countries. So all of the information is in the website astropreneurs.eu. It provides this mentoring and training to these space-related companies for up to about 6 months. There is any space connection, so upstream, downstream, hardware, software. And it is very early, it's for a very, very early stage. There are sort of there are other programs around for slightly more mature businesses, but we're at the very early stage, so it's even before incorporation. The program to date is supporting up to about 160 entrepreneurs across those Euro 28 countries. And it's split sort of, I suppose, in a way that you probably expect. A quarter upstream, 3/4 downstream, and a third hardware, 2/3 software, across the whole range of industry sectors. That's all from me. Thank you very much indeed. I will stop sharing and pass over to Ryan King. Alice, do you want to unmute him?
Hi, thanks everybody. Thanks, Nick. Bear with me while I get my presentation up on the screen. There it is. Great. Okay. Okay, so yeah, hi. Thanks, Nick. My name is Ryan King. I am the Space for Smarter Government Programme Manager at the UK Space Agency. And our session today is really to look at what government usage of space is. The traditional view of government and its role in space is largely as a funder acting on behalf of industry and academia for wider socio-economic benefit. And our session today is really aimed at looking at government as a direct customer and user itself. So this session will look at how Space for Smarter Government Programme, UK Space Agency Programme, what we do to support and grow this market. And Simon will follow me, Simon Agass will follow me with some specific case study examples and some considerations for startups, for industry, in how to engage with governments itself. So I'll start with a couple of slides just on what the UK Space Agency is. We manage the UK's civil space programme and aim to provide a clear single voice for UK space ambitions. And we have an overarching ambition of capturing 10% of the global space market by 2030. In terms of who we are around 200 staff and growing, split across 3 locations, London, Swindon, and we have a base in Harwell as well. Our approximate annual budget is in the region of £430 million. We manage the UK's involvement in ESA missions and programmes. We have both a commercial growth and science focus, and we engage with other UK government departments and partner with countries through international collaborations and direct bilaterals. In terms of where we sit within government, we are an executive agency of the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. We help space companies start and grow across the whole of the UK through supporting business incubators, accelerators and centres. We work with devolved administrations and local enterprise partnerships. We support the Harwell Space Cluster, and we're looking to rebalance the space economy in the UK to benefit all regions. We are a founding member of ESA and one of the leading funders in television and navigation. And the EXAT Centre, one of ESA's core centres, is based in the UK. In addition to our ESA investments, we also help the UK space sector innovate through our national programmes. These include NSTP, our National Space Technology Programme, and our Space for Smarter Government Programme, which is what I'm here to talk to you today about. So, what is Space for Smarter Government? In terms of origins, smarter government was identified as one of 6 pathways to growth in the UK's civil space strategy, which recognised that space-derived products and services already actually underpin a lot of government activities. And there's an opportunity through more coordination that further efficiencies can be found in government through policy development and delivery of public services. Public sector demands can aggregate demands more widely, can drive private investments and encourage wider uptake of downstream space applications. The strategy set out a role for the UK Space Agency to work with government departments to identify applications and then try to translate these into actual requirements that the UK space industry can respond to. So the Space for Smarter Government Programme, SSGP, was established in 2014 as a strategic national programme. It's led and funded by the UK Space Agency, but delivered in close collaboration with the Satellite Applications Catapult, who provide technical expertise and clear links into the industry. The programme has the overarching vision of wanting to help the public sector save money, innovate, and make more effective policy decisions using satellite-enabled solutions. We want to do that by creating space-aware and space-literate civil servants to act as an intelligent customer for the sector. We, as a programme, try to act as the interface between the space sector and its capabilities and public sector needs. And we do this by acting as a matchmaker. We network between the public sector and industry, and we run competitions for feasibility and demonstrator projects, as well as data challenges and hackathons. So what do we mean by public sector efficiency and effectiveness? Space solutions have a number of characteristics that can improve public sector efficiency. I won't dwell on these because I sense I'm probably preaching to the choir in terms of what satellite technology can bring, but some examples are the high temporal resolution, so refresh rates, wide geographic coverage, rapid acquisition of data and the potential for automated processing that brings, and the consistency and objectivity of data collection, so removal of human bias, and the reuse and scalability across multiple applications. What does this mean for the public sector? It can improve and actually substitute alternative existing data collection methods. It can mean that existing data collection resources and methods are more effectively targeted, so using satellite applications to target ground surveys and field inspections. It can provide a collection of data that was not thought economically or technically viable beforehand. And in turn, these provide benefits such as cashable cost savings, more efficient use of resources and infrastructure, and more efficient investment in new infrastructure, ultimately delivering higher value and better quality public services. Now that's all quite high level. Like I said, my colleague Simon will follow me with some more specific examples of where those benefits have been brought through previous SSGP projects. So in terms of how we do this, we like to structure our kind of program methodology into this red thematic. So raising awareness, enabling access, and demonstrating capability. Raising awareness for us is really about holding discovery days and events, training and workshops, and attending and representing the sector at conferences and stands. The stats you see there, the 240 training attendees, we have been running for about 2.5 years. What we call our ISAPS course, which is an introduction to space applications for the public sector. It's a one-day high-level overview of space technology and several use cases and case studies of how they can improve delivery of public services. We host and run a range of events over the years. Most recently in January, the Space to Connect events in the QE2 Centre in Westminster. And over the years, the events that we've hosted, we've had over 2,000 delegates attending. In terms of enabling access, this is really about joining up complementary approaches between different departments to find efficiencies. It's also enabling access to real technical expertise, because we have that back reach into the satellite applications catapult. And then in terms of demonstrating capability, this is really gathering requirements, defining them, and then using those for targeted competitions and demonstrators in specific thematic areas. So we have run competitions in environment, disaster risk management, and infrastructure, as well as targeting local authorities, and using those to increase the applications case studies across the piece, and really helping to make the case to government that this is a viable option. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 disruption and the effect that's had on annual planning, I'm not in a position today to talk about specific upcoming competitions, but I would say watch this space over the coming months. What I would like to talk about, though, is an initiative that we have live at the moment, which is called our Data Procurement Initiative. So what we have found over the years with engaging with public sector departments is that it can often be the case that those with geospatial specialist teams and other specialist teams with data processing expertise have actually looked and explored EO imagery satellite applications to an extent, but only really with the freely accessible resources such as Landsat and Copernicus and Sentinel satellites. Obviously, the spatial resolution that those offer does not give a full reflection on the art of the possible. So we recognized there was a rationale for a market intervention, and we wanted to overcome some of these perceived cost barriers to high resolution optical and SAR, synthetic aperture radar imagery, to allow the public sector to explore quickly what was possible, dispel myths, and actually foster new partnerships between the public sector and industry and academia. So via a competitive tender, we procured and made available high-resolution EO data, available freely for research, development, and prototyping purposes. It's not available to develop full commercial operational products, but as a starting point to develop prototypes and carry out that kind of initial R&D, public sector is able to freely access that, any public sector employees, as well as anyone in industry and academia who has a public sector sponsor and a specific use case. Some of the so we launched that in late 2018. Some of the outcomes so far, we've had 38 collaborations between governments and industry and academia. We've had 188 expressions of interest across 98 public sector organizations, and around 60 to 65% of those registrations have actually gone on and actively downloaded and used the data. And there have been use cases developed in a whole range of areas that I've listed at the bottom of the slide there. So what does this actually look like?
Hi Ryan, sorry, just a quick time warning.
Okay, thank you, yeah. So it's covering 3 years of archived data over Great Britain and Northern Ireland, optical imagery with resolutions of 0.5 to 3.2 meters, and a range of resolutions around radar as well, and up to 3 miles of shoreline imagery. We have recently procured a new range of data, some of which is detailed in this slide. So on the SAR side, we have we've procured a range of SAR stacks which enable change detection and interferometry, and on the optical side we have the new data. It means that the overall coverage offering is now 3.6 million square kilometers across the UK. These are some of the engagement statistics behind. So all of our users who've surveyed have credited it with, credited the initiative with a transformational effect. And 90% are enjoying higher productivity as a result. I'd finish on one case study, which is from Spottit, which is an Oxford-based startup who specialize in EO services across energy, environment, and infrastructure. They used the Data Procurement Initiative to develop the largest ever sub-meter resolution level 2 UK habitat map and delivered this to the West Midlands Combined Authority. And through this, they demonstrated that using automated workflows and satellite data, this map could be generated at half the cost compared to using non-satellite solutions. This has provided them with a proof of concept product that they can test with new clients. And it's already been used by Warwickshire County Council and has led to additional commercial interest with a range of local authorities, environmental consultancies, and commercial organisations with environmental commitments. So if you'd like to access, then please get in touch with us at ssgp@ukspaceagency.gov.uk or our website linked there. We manage the access. There are end user license agreements to fill out, but access is it's a very simple process through the CDAS portal, which many of you probably be familiar with, which is hosted and run by the Satellite Applications Catapult. Thank you for listening. I think I've gone over my time a little bit. Any questions, either ask at the end of the session today or the contact details on the screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ryan. Can everybody hear me? Let me just see if I can share my screen. Okay, so just following on from what Ryan was talking about, I'm going to talk a little bit about space technologies and government, some of the technologies that are currently being used and some of the future requirements, some of the challenges of working with governments, and a few case studies where SSGP has sponsored projects that are working with government and supporting the integration of satellite technology. I was going to see if I can get my video on as well, but I can't seem to do that. I'm sure. Okay. So firstly, like I said, to take a bit of a deeper dive into how some government departments are currently using satellite technology. So we're going to start with the Department for Transport. So the Department for Transport and its agencies use satellite services to monitor some of their critical infrastructure to keep travellers safe and secure. So a few examples are, for example, with the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, they use satellite technology to identify potential illegal oil discharge and to enable and support cleanup operations. And they can use that data to then kind of model where the dispersion of the oil, and where they may need to deploy booms and send assets to help break up the oil. Highways England, they use satellite technology for weather information and road sensors, and they potentially save the UK economy over $2 billion a year in preventing delays. Civil Aviation Authority uses satellite technology to support communications, obviously for GPS for navigation and timing. But I think what we're trying to say is the total savings that can be made by government departments using satellite technologies is vast, and it shouldn't be underestimated, and it shouldn't be undersold how the power of these satellite technologies and space technologies can have on government on impacts on kind of government departments and cost efficiencies. Some of what satellites could be used for in the future is, for example, safe navigation, autonomous cars and drones. So these are some of the future applications. Monitoring of traffic, I mean, that's done to a certain extent now, but certainly by using automated traffic flows and potentially using satellite technologies to monitor air pollution and then communicate that back, actually start automating some of the traffic congestion of flows, and tracking goods and enabling transport of goods with kind of just-in-time deliveries and that sort of thing. So those are some of the examples from the Department for Transport. Department for Environment and Rural Affairs, so DEFRA, they're one of the larger users of satellite technologies, and they're one of the core customers for Copernicus and that system. So the DEFRA currently already have their kind of internal centre of excellence for Earth observation, and they use satellite technologies for kind of monitoring forestry land cover analysis. That's used a lot by Forest Research and the Forestry Commission, the Marine and Maritime Organisation, fisheries monitoring, and also kind of crop and harvest, but also Earth observation is used quite heavily for Common Agricultural Policy and for monitoring payments, for kind of analysing the crops and the harvest across the UK. Precision agriculture is something that's becoming more and more of a core requirement, and Earth observation is providing data, can now provide data to kind of in-cab solutions, so farmers can actually target where they may want to be putting down more water or potential pesticides or other additives. So also air quality monitoring and coastal erosion. So Earth observation weather satellites are used a lot to not just look at kind of oncoming forecasted weather, but also to look at coastal erosion and actually the regression of the cliffs around the UK. And I think some of the future requirements that could potentially service DEFRA and the agencies are providing information to help tackle climate change, the integrated food supply chains, automatically monitoring food quality, and possibly slightly further in the future, satellite-controlled robots for fishing and precision agriculture. I mean, a lot of that can start with the automating current farm processes, but yeah, using satellite technologies can provide benefits there, and the proactive improvement of air and water quality through satellite-controlled sensors and some of the IoT devices and those sorts of solutions that are becoming more widely used. The Department for Health and Social Care, so improving health of the whole population, sharing information and expertise. So this is particularly relevant, I think, in the current situation, and Public Health England are supporting activities for wellbeing campaigns, and there's home health, there's pharmaceuticals tracking. So this comes back to kind of the logistics and the kind of just-in-time deliveries, and emergency services are now using satellites more and more for not just for route planning, but increasing their efficiencies, certainly in rural locations. We've got telemedicine, and some of the connected health systems are actually kitting out ambulances with satellite communications and IoT devices, so that rural healthcare can become more widely used and accessible by helping connect rural locations with hospitals and health centres. I think some of the future of this will be kind of fully integrated emergency services and health records, satellite connected and monitored autonomous health services, and detailed well-being advice and analysis delivered throughout the nation. And all of a sudden, living and working in rural locations, you have the same quality of healthcare that you can get in more populated areas. Department for International Development, so DFID are also using satellite technology more widely. They're using it for a lot of their overseas projects, for monitoring refugee camps and kind of the growth of informal housing in some of the more challenging places in the world, clean water monitoring, and enabling sensor networks to monitor the quality of water, and working towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals through these satellite technology. Humanitarian aid, satellite technology is helping to coordinate that more widely, and post-catastrophe kind of rebuilding and monitoring disaster recovery, and is starting to be used now for mine clearance. What will DFID be using satellites for in the future? Well, I think probably more of what's currently happening. So real-time monitoring for delivering agencies of remote projects, accurate prediction and early warnings of catastrophic events, and affordable education to all. So satellite-enabled education systems throughout the world is becoming more widely used. Now, closer to home, the Home Office are using satellite services for crime analysis. Border Force are starting to use it more and more. Proactive policing, police communications. So, like I said, certainly similar to the healthcare, satellite vehicles are being kitted out with satellite communications to enable them to not just operate in rural locations, but also as a backup for terrestrial networks when terrestrial networks may have to be either damaged or turned off. And obviously using satellite technology to provide more geospatial analysis is enabling faster response times. The use of new satellite sensors, including video, is being used to create kind of pattern of life models to detect serious and organized crime. And this has also been used in the current situation, or has been tested in the current situation for looking at large gatherings. Earth observation, along with other intelligence sources, are being used to detect illegal immigration activity beyond UK borders. And this goes back to the Border Force taking advantage of these technologies to be able to kind of monitor large areas of the sea, which they can't currently do with assets, and seamless communication between all of the emergency services. And certainly, this becomes more critical if there are any impending disasters or situations where they may not be able to use terrestrial networks. Cabinet Office are delivering effective government coordinated response to national crisis. So again, it's being used more widely across kind of government and now within the Cabinet Office. Counter-terrorism, cybersecurity, cross-government coordination, critical national infrastructure, and kind of monitoring that, and monitoring critical supply chains. And Cabinet Office, I think, are probably wanting to use it to as another source of geospatial data, to manage the government estate and ensure government performance targets are achieved. And also kind of Geospatial Commission are looking more widely at using satellite technology, incorporating that into some of the core mapping services potentially in the future, and you know, provide give the UK kind of its world-leading geospatial strategy. So when we kind of talk to government, there are several things that SSGP do. One of which is we run a course which is satellite introduction to satellite applications for the public sector. Now we tend to categorise our satellite technology and our satellite capability into these three subject areas: so imagery and Earth observation, communications, and the navigation. That's kind of how we categorise our applications and kind of demonstrate what the potential is within that. But satellites have such a large impact on everyday life that it's becoming quite clear that now that satellites themselves are part of critical national infrastructure, as they support so much of our everyday life. Working with government, though, is not always there are certainly certain challenges about working and delivering services to government, and those challenges kind of exist on all sides. And so in these next couple of slides, there's some of the things that I think businesses should think about when talking to governments or when putting projects together that could potentially deliver services to government. So when we think about delivering a service to government clients, we need to think about how a customer would actually want to consume a service. I think that's critically important. I think all too often companies can go with a great idea, but they also have in their minds how they want a service to be consumed. And I think we really need to, as an industry, be a bit better at thinking about how does a government department, how does a government customer want to consume a service, whether it be, it could be providing satellite communications, it could be providing location-based services or Earth observation and value-added Earth observation services. And so we can't forget that certainly different government departments and different agencies have different capabilities, and we need to think about actually how we provide those services. So there's a few kind of key words here that are important things to think about. So it's some of the BAU concept, so business as usual. How do we anticipate that a service will operate on a daily basis? Are there service level agreements that are wrapped around those? Quite often government departments will want to have some assurance that a service is going to be reliable, and so if there needs to be a service level agreement around that, how can we provide that? Certainly for a small company with a limited resource, and if you need to provide a service that's actually got like a 24/7 uptime, and there could be potential penalty clauses against downtime, then you need to think very carefully about how you can provide that. And that can lead quite neatly onto kind of the infrastructure management and the automation side of things. There's lots of solutions out there for actually automating a lot of services these days, and certainly I think satellite communications might be slightly different, but when we kind of look at Earth observation providing a service with the current satellites that we've got out there, as many of you know, we'd be able to actually provide information on a very regular basis, and it's very possible to kind of build in automated processes, but also to have kind of the infrastructure management behind it, and also how do you provide that service to an organisation that may have its own infrastructure that may be behind multiple firewalls or on a government secure intranet. It's something that we really need to kind of think about how we do that. Whether do we host it outside? And actually, there are plenty of there are a number of companies out there these days that will you can pay to have that 24/7 service, and they will actually manage a service for you. And also, how can we provide it as software as a service? And that kind of application, I think, certainly these days, the way we consume data and information is becoming more and more in these very niche applications that don't overbear the customer with too much information, too many options. It's something very simple that provides the information that somebody needs to do to get a job, to get the job done. And so there's a few things there that I think are really kind of worth thinking about when we start talking to government customers or any customers really about how somebody actually wants to consume the information. Because I think as an industry, sometimes we can get very excited about the science and the technology, but we need to start thinking at ourselves more as an information economy. How do we provide information so that the end user does not have to be an expert in satellite data to understand how to use it? They can consume a product and make a decision based on that product. And so those are things that I think we need to think about from the industry side about how we provide that. It's also important that we think about how we can integrate a service into an organization. So adopting a new service, adopting a new technology is not something that's easy for any market to do. But it's worth taking the time to understand what needs to happen to help a customer adopt a service. You need to make it very easy for somebody to actually to be able to take up a service. It's always worth thinking about actually who's the champion in that organization, who's going to champion your product or your service or your idea at kind of that senior level and really get kind of buy-in for that. Who's going to manage the change? Certainly if you're thinking about providing a service that is changing the way that a government organisation is doing something or the way that they consume something, actually how do you manage that change within an organisation? Is there a change management process? What skills are required? Quite often with the adoption of new technology, there needs to be some upskilling, there needs to be some capacity building in that organisation to be able to take that technology and get the best value out of it. How do you integrate it? What's their current IT platform? Are they working with a infrastructure provider that you would actually need to discuss with how you can provide that to them? Certainly when working with government organisations, a lot of them are certainly very restricted on their IT, so some thought needs to be given to that. And also, very importantly, what are the procurement mechanisms? Does the organisation have a mechanism for procuring a service? Is it a subscription model? Quite often government departments, they might have an annualised kind of capital budget. Is it possible for you as a provider to be flexible about how you can provide a service and how you can charge for a service that will fit in with how the customer may want to or may be able to pay for it? And then, also what's the existing capability within an organisation? And how can you ensure that anything you are providing can fit in and actually potentially add value to what their current capability is? So those are just a few things that I think are really worth thinking about when you're thinking about talking or when you have government customers, and how you want to and how you can actually get buy-in for providing them with new technology. So now we've got a few example applications. I think I've got a few minutes left. That are some of the things that we've worked on with public sector bodies And some of them are very, very simple, and some of them are have actually come out of the recent situation that we're in. So this is a low-level waste repository. So I was running a course up in the northwest at Sellafield, and I was approached about monitoring a low-level waste repository. Now, this was just very speculative. They wanted to understand how they could use it, and I think given the current situation, this is something that's very relevant, where a lot of these sites are now running on reduced staffing, being able to carry out kind of maintenance and surveys in the same way that they have done previously is not possible. And this was very much could you provide us with some information so we can have a look at something and see what we can see. So this was a very simple kind of imagery, and then providing an NDVI. Again, very, very simple process. And it was just to provide some information that could potentially be useful. We were approached by Birmingham City Council to look at potential fly tipping examples. They had a few areas where they have hotspots for fly tipping. And so again, this was very, very simple. It was about providing imagery over some locations. There's a whole raft of different processing and automation that could be done on top of this, and that is being looked into, including using machine learning to gather these data on a regular basis and then look for potential fly tipping in a number of areas. This particular example is actually a couple of years old, and this was working with Milton Keynes Council, looking at urban planning and urban development. The challenge that Milton Keynes had at the time was that I think they needed to build so many thousand homes over a number of years. They've got a relatively small team of planners who have to manage the whole process. How do they actually monitor what is being built where? How do they know when things are starting to be built once the permission has been approved? How do they know when something is finished being built to a level that potentially somebody can move in and they can actually report against it against government targets? So we worked with Milton Keynes to provide them with satellite imagery, and using their planning database, we could identify where there are areas we may need to look, and then we can provide them with automated information about what's actually changing, so they can get an idea of actually when something has commenced, when something started being built. This is another example.
Yes, Simon, sorry, just a time warning.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I will just do a couple more examples and then I'll close there. But this is working with Scottish Government, looking at employee protection. So lone workers in rural locations. And this was very much about just providing a location-based information service about where employees were. And an employee could use it to register at a location or check in, and just provide some security to them, that somebody was actually looking out for them, and could see potentially if they were in problems. The next this was a very simple application with Exeter City Council. You'll have seen this sort of thing before. This is about basically crowdsourcing information. So it's using GPS and tagging images. Or for missed bin collections. Tagging locations, missed bin collections, and saving money in actually being able to then feed that back to the council and provide information around route collections. I will flip over the next couple. This was about providing emergency services network via satellite. And as mentioned earlier, this is something that's kind of becoming more widely used. And that is it from me. Thank you very much indeed. There's contact information there if anyone wants to get in touch with us. see if I can stop sharing now.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, folks. Sorry about the slow handover here, but our home broadbands, my guaranteed is 1 megabit per second, which I thought would be easy to beat, but in some cases it isn't, obviously. So sorry about that. But anyway, thank you very, very much indeed, Ryan and Simon. Excellent summary of what the government doing. So the government is doing huge amounts. So it's well worth getting involved if you've got a product or service that can help them. You know, precursor to all of this generally means, you know, the starting data, which I just wanted to cover over with you with a couple of slides. I'm not really, well, I'm not at all an expert, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see some links that you can go off and get expert help, or indeed the data itself. As a summary, there are lots and lots of places you can do this. If you already know, then fine. But there are many other locations, or many locations where you can get data from. There are principally two sets or sets of open source data that is, you know, available to us. One, the European Sentinel program, and two, the American NASA Landsat program. And you can get sort of raw data from them if you know what you're doing and you know what you want to do with it. Or they have a lot of portals, a number of portals that allow you access to these various data that some people have already tried to clean up and assess and present in an interesting fashion. So Ryan mentioned CDAS, which is sort of 5 down on that list, as a location for their for some of their data procurement initiative. The Alaska facility is again a portal through which you can access other people's data and various others. You have the ESA thematic exploitation platform, the third on the list, which is generally for sort of climate change and agriculture. Anyway, any of those locations, website links would take you to somebody who has data, so they've processed it to some form and may well be able to help you. So the purpose is not to expand that too dramatically, but too expansively, but really to summarize on one page, you know, the sort of key places you can go. There are many others, of course. This is absolutely not an exhaustive list, and of course the places you can go are, you know, Catapult, the satellite applications Catapult, to help you. In addition to the open source, you have partially open source and more commercial Earth observation platforms. These obviously have come with you know, more restrictions and requirements, and the commercial ones obviously come with an invoice as well. So this is again where you can presumably get more accurate, more frequent or locations that you couldn't otherwise get. And if you're able to charge it onto the customer, that's clearly well worth speaking to those guys, all of whom are in the business of trying to sort of sell you more data. So the purpose of this couple of slides is really, you get these slides at the end, you have a freedom of your own time and energy to go through all the links to find the people who can really help you with the data. But there is plenty out there, and they're really you know, looking for sort of customers. As always, it's not an exhaustive list, and you can go to these middlemen, for want of a better word, who've already got a great deal of experience with processing data. If you just have a good idea, you can speak to them. Agrimetrics spoke a couple of weeks ago. They're targeted towards the agricultural sector, and the satellite applications Catapult targeted to helping anybody who's interested in satellite data. Okay, so thank you very much indeed for that. We now you got a sort of bonus content of an entrepreneur who will give a 3-minute pitch on their company. It's Blue Abyss. I will stop sharing if Simon Everts can be unmuted and share your slides. And then after Simon, we will go to Q&A.
Thank you very much, Nick. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Blue Abyss is establishing a multi-sector research, test and training centres, with the first in the UK, centred around the world's largest pool, primarily to support the offshore energy, maritime defence and space sectors. This extreme environment facility is designed to reduce the cost of and enhance the capacity for the human procedural and technological innovation
Simon,
required.
Really sorry, but I don't think we can see your slides.
That's interesting. Wait just a second. Let's find out what's happening there. How's that, Alice?
No, not yet.
Ah, that'll be why, because I didn't press share, despite the fact that it was on the slide. So yeah, apologies for that. Let me very quickly get back into here. Yes, so we've got a centre here that's going to be offering or will enable facilities that are required to expand maritime and space research, education and industrial activity in today's present climate. Blue Abyss will be offering simulated environments with state-of-the-art support workshops and ancillaries with cutting-edge technology incorporating virtual, augmented and mixed reality and advanced console monitoring and training simulation capabilities. We'll also be offering challenging environments, including hyperbaric and high and low G, with nearby access to open water and offshore locations, and the ability to stress technology to assess resilience, performance, and lifespan of technology. So we're building Blue Abyss, firstly, because there is a subsea infrastructure gap in Western Europe and in certain other regions of the world. UK competitiveness will be enhanced by having appropriate and accessible subsea technology development infrastructure within our shores. And then there is the emerging commercial human spaceflight sector. Currently, there does not exist complete commercial services and facilities for end-to-end preparation of people and technology for space. Blue Abyss will be able to train the thousands of people who will be going into space in the years ahead. So by establishing a facility that can support and facilitate innovation in the fields of subsea and space technology and operational procedures, Blue Abyss will enhance progress within multiple strategically important sectors and aligned needs. And a number of secondary markets are served as well, some of which are priority fields of endeavour. So as I speak, we are in the final stages of negotiations for where Blue Abyss will be located in the UK, which will be facilitated through regional government support. This build phase will be 18 to 24 months, so that we're expecting to be operational in 2022. So we're grateful for this opportunity to speak to you all today, and we welcome the further opportunities to talk with potential partners, collaborators, clients, and investors in the future. So thank you very much for your interest. And with that, Nick, I'll pass back to you, I believe, or Alice, indeed.
Many thanks, Simon. So I'm very aware that we're running out of time, and we have had a couple of questions. Just to check with you, Nick, are you still happy to take a couple of questions?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So firstly, I think this is a question for you, Simon Agas. Did you support any COVID fighting applications?
Unmute him.
Hi there. Right. I think we are in the process of supporting some COVID fighting applications. As I mentioned, we've been supporting some requests for information around using satellite technologies for remote monitoring of facilities, and also a request around a potential identification of large gatherings. There have been other kind of requests to the space sector around things like drone deliveries, or the potential for using drone deliveries for shipping either PPE or potential test samples around. And so we are kind of working toward, we're working with we're working out requests currently to either deliver or provide information around how the industry could potentially support the activities of the current situation.
Great, thanks, Simon. Next up, I think again, either for Simon or Ryan, how can SSGP support our business in engaging with government?
Do you want to take this on, Ryan?
Ryan's on mute, I think.
Yeah, I have to unmute him.
Hi. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think both Simon and I can probably talk to this one. I mean, we engage, or we help engagement through a range of activities. Like I said, we hold events, themed events that can bring public sector and suppliers together. We hold data challenges using specific challenges that are owned by the public sector for companies to bid into and showcase their capabilities. And we have put out many times over the years larger funding opportunities for proof of concepts, feasibility studies, and demonstrator level projects. So I mean, those are the kind of core mechanics, if you like, of how we can support. I don't know, Simon, if you had things you'd like to add to that.
I think you've probably covered a lot of it. I mean, certainly, you know, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I think, echo what Ryan was saying, really. You know, the team is here to support generally as well. And, you know, I think as different calls come up, and from not just from the Space Agency, but, you know, we also keep our eye on what other calls are coming up from other areas of government, and also we work with other areas of government if they have particular needs to bring the industry in to potentially supply solutions, or at least demonstrate what's the art of the possible is against those needs.
Great. We'll just finish with one last question, which is on the Astropreneurs programme. So for you, Nick. Is there another opportunity to apply for the Astropreneurs programme?
Sadly not. No, the last deadline was just last week, so unfortunately it's closed. But the work of the successful applicants carries on, so we will be looking for partners in their businesses. Great,
thanks for that. So I'm aware that everybody's very busy and we've gone over time slightly. So with that, thanks for attending. I'll just pass back to Nick for a final few words.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. So thank you to Ryan King and Simon Agas from the Space for Smarter Government programme. That was very, very helpful. Thank you to Simon Everts from Blue Abyss for talking. And thank you, obviously, to all of you for attending. We will be sending out a link to the recording and the slides. There will also be an assessment form. If you're able to fill that out, we'd be very, very grateful. To remind you again, we have we have already given ones on agriculture and finance sector if you're interested or you know somebody who might be. And next week, more or less the same time, 4 o'clock BST, Tuesday, we have space technologies, manufacturing and robotics. So please sign up for that. Thank you again very much. I hope to see some of you back next week. Excellent.